Hello and welcome to Vintage Horror Movies, where we provide commentary, analysis, and criticism of older horror movies. This episode, I wanted to talk about the four film versions of Nosferatu. I covered Nosferatu on my podcast a few episodes back, so to get a more extensive look at the movies that includes the plot as well as trivia, check that out. It's at foodandfrighteningfilmfanatics.podbean.com. I did want to include some information here, though, since Nosferatu is so important. It's probably the only silent movie many people have ever seen. So, after watching Nosferatu for the first time, many people say, "Isn't this just Dracula?" And the answer is yes, sorta. Both Nosferatu and Dracula explore the vampire myth. Nosferatu is an unauthorized adaptation of Bram Stoker's 1897 novel Dracula, with significant changes including a different name for the vampire, Count Orlok instead of Dracula, a more grotesque and rat-like appearance, and the vampire's death being caused by sunlight rather than being staked in the heart. The reason for this was to dodge being sued by the Bram Stoker estate, but that didn't work very well. Bram Stoker's widow, Florence, sued for copyright infringement. She received very little money from Bram's book. All of the money instead went to the publisher, so she was having a hard time financially. So suing was not just because she was some greedy rich person. This lawsuit led to a court order to destroy all copies of the movie. Luckily for us, a few copies survived, including, I guess, a copy in the US because the copyright had expired here already. Sadly, the production company that made Nosferatu was forced into bankruptcy. So there are four Nosferatu films. The first is Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror from 1922. It's a German expressionist film, and those are characterized by eerie visuals, distorted space, and exaggerated shadows. This was directed by FW Murnau. It was a silent movie with music and dialogue cards. It is in black and white. This is considered possibly the best silent movie of all time. Max Schreck is Count Orlok, and he's truly terrifying. Also very inventive camera work, especially for this time. And then the second movie we have Nosferatu the Vampire from 1979, directed by Werner Herzog. Klaus Kinski was excellent and terrifying as Nosferatu. This film was released in both English and German. Interestingly, instead of dubbing the voices, they made two different versions of the film with the actors doing the same story, once in English and once in German. Also, since the copyright on Nosferatu had expired, or copyright on Dracula had expired, the main character is called Dracula here, and the real estate agent is Jonathan, and his wife is Lucy. In Stoker's Dracula, Lucy is the best friend of Mina, so I'm not sure why they made that change. The town is Wismar instead of Visborg, and this film has a very different ending than the original. Then we have another film named Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror from 2023, directed by David Lee Fisher. This is listed as a shot-for-shot remake of the 1922 movie. It was Kickstarter funded and took years to get off the ground. Doug Jones, you'll know him from playing various characters in Hellboy, Pan's Labyrinth, Hocus Pocus, etc., plays Count Orlok, and he does a really good job. Then we have Aerosmith Cooper as Thomas, Sarah Carter as Ellen, Jolie Fisher, who's Carrie Fisher's half-sister, as Ruth. This film uses green screens to insert colorized scenes of the original sets into the background behind live actors. David Lee Fisher had already done this previously with The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Most people, it appears, did not like this rendition of Nosferatu. I confess I didn't even know this movie existed before I started working on this episode. It does have some issues. There are a few changes in this version that weren't in the original, such as Thomas has sex with a Romani woman, and a blind man warns him of the dangers of Orlok's castle. The talisman Ellen gives Thomas for protection. I don't remember seeing that in the original movie. Maybe I missed it. I personally find Thomas to be a jerk here, but I guess he's supposed to be that way. This movie doesn't have a real look since it's just everyone sitting on a soundstage. There isn't any real emotion from the actors either, but all in all, I still enjoyed watching it and comparing it to the original. I also love that they copied from the original Nosferatu carrying his coffin through town and onto a boat until he gets to his new house. I don't think that was supposed to be intentional funny, but it's a funny scene, so I'm glad they kept it. And lastly, the fourth movie is Nosferatu from 2024, directed by Robert Eggers, who did The Witch and The Lighthouse. It's an interesting adaptation, and I think Bill Skarsgård and Lily Rose Depp and Nicholas Hoult and William Dafoe all did great jobs. However, the movie is really, really dark at times. Apparently, there was an artistic choice by Eggers since everything was really dark back then and they had only daylight, which is not a friend to vampires, and candlelight. I do like that they did not show Orlok until close to the end of the movie, and they also did not show him in the trailers, which I think was a great choice because that ruins many movies. Where to watch these movies? All three except for the last one are available for free on Tubi. The last one you can watch on Peacock or on Amazon Prime or the usual spots for a fee. Note, there is a colorized version of the 1992 movie on Tubi, and there are also lots of other versions of the original in existence with different scores, including one by rock band Type O Negative. Rotten Tomatoes scores: Nosferatu 1922, critics gave it a 97, audiences gave it an 87. 1979 version, critics gave it a 94, audiences gave it an 83. The 2003 version was not rated. The 2024 version, critics gave it an 84, audiences gave it a 73. So you can see the highest rating for both critics and audiences is still the original movie, which is over 100 years old. So that's pretty impressive. Should you watch these movies? I think you should definitely watch the first one. It's one of the most influential horror movies of all time. And it's a much different interpretation of the sexy, seductive vampire like Dracula or the sparkly teen angst vampires. You know who you are. I mean, I'm not opposed to either of those interpretations, but this one is much different in that it really deals with Nosferatu in terms of bringing disease to the town instead of just seducing the townswomen. In closing, I would also like to mention there is a Nosferatu adjacent movie called Shadow of the Vampire from 2000. It also stars William Dafoe, and he plays Max Schreck, who is supposedly playing Nosferatu in the making of the original movie. John Malkovich is the director, and this movie is very meadow and a ton of fun. I would definitely suggest watching this, but I would suggest that you watch the first movie first so you can see what they're playing on. In this movie, actually, the director is worse than who we think might be a vampire, but it's tons of fun, so I would highly recommend it. Before we close, I would like to show a couple more iconic scenes from the original movie. So this one, of course, is Nosferatu in the doorwell there. That one is seen a lot. This one is him on the boat going to England or Germany, whatever version. And this one you see in lots of things. And another funny meme that goes around is Don Knotts from Andy Griffith's Show replacing Max Schreck's head here. That's a pretty funny one. Also interesting to note that Max Schreck was a method actor and he did not want to be out of character during the filming of the movie. And he also tried never to blink on screen if he could help it. I think we see him blink maybe once in the original movie, so that adds to his eeriness. Also, here's the 1979 version with Klaus Kinski. Also, a very interesting interpretation. Klaus Kinski, I think, had some mental and substance abuse issues, um, which may be made for a better movie, but I'm sure from what I've heard regarding his daughters, not easy to deal with in real life. But that's also a good version. And then here we have most of what the promotional shots look like for the 2024 movie. Since they did not show Nosferatu, they did a lot with his long claws or nails with Lily Depp. And again, that's a very different relationship than the other movies between the female heroine and the vampire character. Let's see, and I think I have one more from Shadow of a Vampire. Yes, William Dafoe hamming it up in the death scene for Shadow of a Vampire. So again, I did not know that movie existed till recently, and I really like it a lot. So that's it for this time. If you watch any of these movies, let me know what you think and how these movies compare with other vampires like Dracula or the many other vampires that we've seen since then. Thanks for watching. Bye.